Gennady, can you please explain the procedure of filing insurance claim the best way possible?
A homeowner or property owner can either file the claim on their own, or they can talk to an attorney like myself and figure out the proper details that need to be presented to the insurance company.
Most of the houses in LA underinsure. Let's talk about a little coverage. Why it's important to insure house properly, and what person needs to pay attention to when insuring the property.
So at the very beginning, what I would tell every property owner, let's make an example of a homeowner, is when they get a policy, when they buy the house, let them talk to a contractor that they know and tell them, well, if the house burned down tomorrow, what will it cost to rebuild this house? And they'll probably tell them, well, it's this much per square foot. So I would take that as the minimum that they need to have on their insurance for the structure. And they should compare that to the policy. As far as personal property, they should take a look at everything they own, from toilet paper to the most expensive thing they own in their home, kind of get an idea of everything that they own. If the house burned down tomorrow, God forbid, and that happened to a lot of people, then what would it all cost? And then take that amount and compare it to what they actually have on the policy. And then for the additional living expense, I'll let them look at their house and see what comparable homes are renting for on Airbnb, for example, on a monthly basis, and multiply it by 24 to 36 months and say, okay, how much will it cost me to rent a house like this furnished for 3 years if it burned down tomorrow? And that's what they should be really thinking about. And then once they put those numbers together, call the insurance agent back and say, listen, I have this policy, but it has very basic coverages, which are not enough for me. I need to increase my coverage.
Thank you. What are the other perils can be covered under insurance company that related to this fire that happened in January 7?
Other perils, there's wind damage, there's smoke and ash damage, there's fire damage, obviously, for the structures that burned down. So all those claims are associated with the January 7th events because there were strong winds. So some houses will have only wind damage. Some houses will have that fully burned down. That's obvious fire damage. Some houses will have combination of ash and smoke damage and partial fire damage, or just ash and smoke damage.
Gennady, is there any special provisions that related to this catastrophic event that happened in January?
Sure. The California Department of Insurance has specific rules that are created for situations where it's a wildfire claim that results in a state of emergency, like here. There are numerous rules that change your policy coverages, but several rules are, for example, extending additional living expense from 12 months to at least 24 months, combining policy limits for structure that completely burned down. And if coverage A is not enough, you can actually combine structure A, coverage A with coverage B, and many other rules. There's also some provisions, for example, in property tax assessor's office. There's Prop 19 that was created in 2020 that all homeowners can look up. If they decide to buy another home as replacement home for a house that burned down, they can carry over their tax basis, which is important because in California, for example, there's Prop 13 that caps your property tax base. And people who've owned a home for many years, they may be living in a $6 million home, but have a tax base of a $2 million home. Well, if they go buy another $6 million home somewhere else in California, they could potentially keep the same tax base. So it's important for them to look that up.
In which case it makes sense to hire an attorney?
If a property owner is uncomfortable handling their claim on their own, or they don't know all the kind of ins and outs and all the specific rules that apply, it also makes sense for smoke and ash claims, for example, where you don't have policy limits, or partial fire damage, because we know how to get maximum coverage for a client and ask for items to be paid that client may not know on their own. But even in total loss claims, there's two kind of steps to coverage. One is to get coverage so the claim is not denied. And second step is to negotiate enough of coverage benefits of the insurance carrier